Now, on this Freedom Day, citizens will attempt to review how much progress has been made towards a better life for all. It doesn't look like the 1994 miracle is working out, though, for more South Africans or even for the economy. Millions have lost their jobs and millions more have even given up looking for work. eNCA reporter Heidi Giokos has been on the streets asking citizens how they've been coping thus far. And she joins us live now just to give us, of course, all those developments from where she stands. And Heidi, good morning to you, a colleague. I suppose this is the reason why we commemorate. We look back on the past 29 years and also just see if ever, there is hope for a better tomorrow, especially for all South Africans. But from where you stand, what are South Africans saying in terms of the 29 years of democracy that we have walked thus far?
Yes, and I think what's important to highlight here, Tumelo, is the fact that enshrined in our constitution is access to water and electricity. And we are currently in the midst of an energy crisis that is really plaguing every single aspect of our society and our livelihoods and our daily lives. This is possibly one of the biggest energy crises we've ever had to face or ever been in. We sit with constant rolling blackouts day in, day out. It's a problem that government says they are addressing every single day. But how free are we really as South Africans if you get home and you don't have electricity, you can't make yourself dinner, you can't watch TV, you can't plan your life, you sit in endless hours of traffic because the traffic lights aren't working because of the constant rolling blackouts. You're driving home and, especially as a woman in this country, you fear for your life because all the roads are dark because of the rolling blackouts. There are many aspects to this energy crisis that we are facing. And are you really free if you cannot get into your car and feel safe driving home because the roads are lit? That's not the reality that many of us face. What's also interesting is that there is now a new term that's coming out called load shedding depression. So people are actually now starting to feel some sorts of depression because of the constant rolling blackouts. People have lost their jobs, businesses have shut down. People have even lost their lives because of the constant rolling blackouts. So, celebrating Freedom Day today, are we really free? We got a chance to speak to some South Africans out and about today. Do they just see it as another public holiday, or do they really feel free? And most of them, Tumelo, and I must just emphasize that all of them actually did indicate that they don't feel free at all because of the massive energy crisis that we face. Let's listen to what they had to say to us earlier.
To be honest, we are not free. This is not Freedom Day for us. We can't celebrate. We can go everywhere. The place is dark, so we can't say it's Freedom Day while we are in darkness. So what free are we talking about since we are in a dark city?
No, I don't feel free. Sitting in darkness is a terrible thing to humans and to humanity. People can't survive like this, and we should see who we should vote for.
No, ma'am, I don't feel free as a South African because load shedding is sometimes in purpose. I think it's deliberate when the ways they are doing in terms of the stages, because some places are lit and some are not. Yeah.
So do you hope that they sort this out? I mean, in terms of being free, in our constitution it says that everybody has a right to electricity, to water, but we don't really have that.
Yeah, I think for this democracy to succeed, they have to make sure that they speak the truth, especially these politicians and people who know what is really going on. I think they need to make sure that they speak the truth as to the energy crisis. Yeah.
They say it's democracy today. At my age, I don't know if I can feel that. I thought by the time I leave this earth, there won't be things like load shedding. In the beginning, there was none. This is really disappointing. I was expecting a lot of changes, It's not, we're not against democracy like now we stay in the suburbs. Kids go to school. But do we need only that? I'm originally from Butterworth in the Eastern Cape. Oh, the roads are horrible. And we voted. That is where our government gets the votes. from us, the elderly, and especially from the rural area. But what do we get in return?
Not at all. I think it's not just the electricity, it's literally everything. We're having water problems, it's the rising inflation, it's the housing market, it's job security, it's physical crime and everything. So no, not at all. Not at all. No, I don't.
And that's a sentiment, right, Heidi? Most South Africans saying they do not feel free, they're not enjoying, the fruits of freedom that they were promised from as far back as 1994. But I just wonder, during those engagements with South Africans, what did they say the solution is? What could get South Africans out of, this seemingly very, dark and hopelessness that most are feeling, even using the words as, depress and depression as a result of high unemployment rates, rolling blackouts that we're seeing. You mentioned this even before, that women too don't even feel safe in their own cars when driving in the dark. So did they mention anything to you at all about what they think the solution is?
Yes, I think next year, 2024, is going to be a very crucial year for South Africans and South Africa. Many of them have alluded to the fact that they are going to try and make a difference to their lives and to South Africa at the polls. We do know that next year is the 2024 general elections, a very crucial year, and many of them indicating that they want to go out and vote. I mean, when we saw the recent local government elections, Tumelo, we saw real issues around people not actually wanting to vote. People just decided to stay away from the polls, which is also not a good thing. We saw a lot of young people saying, what's the point of actually voting if we're not going to see a difference? If we look back to 2021 and where we are currently, it's obviously going to be a very it's obviously very different in terms of where we are with our energy crisis, our unemployment rates, inflation, all these issues that South Africans are really worried about. And the fact that you have South Africans saying to you, I don't feel free, is obviously a great concern, especially because we are 29 years into our democracy.
Yeah, I know that over time, political parties and, the IEC had worked hard to eradicate voter apathy, encouraging, the younger votes from South Africans. I just wonder, with everything happening now, that alone will not be motivation enough, Heidi, as you mentioned, to let South Africans go out in 2024 and cast their vote next year, as it's important. It's a human right. So it's a right that they have, or a democratic right is the word I'm looking for, that they have enjoyed since 1994. But, colleague, we'll leave it there as we continue to have these conversations, quite significant today, as it is Freedom Day, 29 years of democracy in South Africa. South Africans expressing themselves to Heidi Giokos, my colleague, around whether or not they are enjoying the fruits of freedom promised to them, and a majority of them saying absolutely not.